Okay, so get ready to time travel back to the 1950s.
To the 1950s?
Yeah, to those picture-perfect post-war homes.
Oh, right.
But we're not here to talk interior design.
Not this time.
No. We're going a little darker today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're peeling back those layers of nostalgia
Okay.
to uncover some hidden dangers.
I see.
The kind of stuff lurking in those everyday objects.
Right.
I've got some excerpts from this documentary.
Okay.
And it paints a pretty unsettling picture of life back then.
Yeah, it's interesting how they use that model home.
Right.
That 1950s home throughout the film.
Yeah.
It really brings those hidden dangers to life.
It's kind of like they recreated this like perfectly ordinary house.
Yeah.
And then went room by room, pointing out all the ways it could kill you.
Exactly. It really makes you think.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's set the stage a bit.
Yeah, good idea.
So we're talking post-World War II Britain.
Right.
A time of rebuilding optimism. You know.
Right, lots of new things.
Yeah, and this huge boom in consumerism.
Exactly.
Everyone was eager for all this new technology.
New materials.
Oh, yeah, especially plastics.
Yeah.
It was all about promising a brighter future.
It's important to remember that context. People were so eager to embrace anything new and improved after years of war and doing without.
Of course.
But what this documentary reveals is that all this new stuff, it didn't always come with proper safety measures.
Or like instructions.
Exactly.
It's kind of a good reminder.
It is.
That what we might think is common sense now wasn't always so common back then.
Yeah, good point.
So let's start in a place where danger and discovery often collide.
Okay.
The bedroom.
The bedroom, okay.
More specifically, we're talking about those chemistry sets.
Oh, yeah?
Marketed to children.
The chemistry sets. Yeah. It's almost unbelievable what they had in them.
Oh, I know.
Copper, sulfate, potassium permanganate.
Wow.
Chemicals that would make any parent today cringe.
Right. They even showed one set.
I know.
With uranium dust.
Uranium?
Uranium?
Are you serious?
Yeah, it even had a little Geiger counter. So kids could, measure the radiation themselves.
Oh, my God.
Talk about a recipe for disaster.
That's unbelievable.
Right.
And the accidents these things caused.
Oh, no.
Explosions, burns, kids accidentally ingesting chemicals.
It's scary to think about.
It's awful. And the documentary doesn't hold back.
No, they don't.
They actually show you what happens.
Oh, really?
When you mix potassium permanganate and glycerol.
Oh, wow.
Common chemicals found in those old sets.
I remember those.
Yeah, and the explosion is pretty dramatic.
It makes you realize just how dangerous these toys were.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
The documentary also interviews these scientists.
Right.
Who actually got their start.
Yeah.
Because of these chemistry sets.
It's kind of a weird twist, right?
It is. It really makes you think.
Like, these toys were dangerous.
But they also sparked this, love for science in some kids.
Exactly. This strange double-edged sword.
It's true.
Fostering curiosity, but also putting kids at risk.
And that's something that runs through the whole documentary.
Definitely.
This tension between innovation and risk.
Right.
Pushing boundaries, but also making sure things are safe.
Yeah, it's easy to judge in hindsight.
Totally.
But we have to remember the context.
Of course.
It's a good reminder that progress.
Yeah.
It's not always a smooth path.
Not always a straight line.
No, sometimes there are detours.
For sure.
And in this case, those detours
Yeah.
led straight into the living room.
Oh, the living room.
The heart of the home.
And a whole new set of dangers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the living room, it's where we really see those post-war dreams.
Oh, yeah.
Colliding with some serious safety hazards.
Right.
And a lot of it comes down to these new materials.
Like what?
Polyurethane, furniture, synthetic fabrics.
Okay, so we're talking like those comfy sofas.
Exactly.
The ones everyone wanted.
Yeah. And those stylish curtains?
Right.
Those...
Everywhere.
But dangerous.
Potentially deadly.
Really?
The documentary highlights this really scary statistic.
Oh, no.
Back then, about 300 children and elderly people died each year in Britain.
Wow, 300.
Yeah, from burns caused by flammable materials.
That's a staggering number.
It is a number we wouldn't accept today.
Right.
And polyurethane, it played a big part in that.
It's that flammable, isn't it?
Incredibly, and especially in its foam form.
So like cushions and mattresses.
Exactly. You see, with polyurethane, it's not just about something catching fire.
Okay.
It actually melts.
Oh, wow.
And as it melts, it releases these gases.
Oh, no.
And those gases are highly flammable. It's like a chain reaction,
right,
creating this blowtorch effect.
Wow.
Which is why those fires spread so quickly.
So it's not just catching fire.
No.
It's melting into this, flammable goo.
Yeah. And to make matters worse.
Oh, there's more.
Burning polyurethane releases cyanide gas.
Cyanide.
Silent killer. Wow. And people back then smoked everywhere, right?
Everywhere in their homes, cars, even hospitals.
It's like this recipe for disaster.
It was a disaster waiting to happen.
Your comfy sofa turning into this toxic inferno.
And let's not forget about those children's nightgowns.
Oh, yeah.
Made from flammable synthetic fabrics.
So dangerous.
Putting your child to bed in what was essentially a fire hazard.
Scary to even think about.
It is. The documentary tells the story of this young girl who was fatally burned when her nightgown caught fire.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. It prompted the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents to actually launch a campaign.
I see.
They encouraged parents to have their children wear pajamas instead.
I guess because pajamas?
They were less likely to come into contact with open flames.
Right. Makes sense. It's amazing how something so simple
It is.
can make such a difference.
Right, but the living room held another danger too.
Oh, really? What's that?
One that might not be as obvious. The rise of DIY culture.
Oh, you mean like those old magazines?
Exactly.
With the guys in hats holding power tools.
That's the one.
DIY was really taken off back then, wasn't it?
It was huge. With the post-war housing boom,
Right.
a lot of families moved into new homes that needed work.
Yeah, but weren't there shortages of tradesmen after the war?
Huge shortages. And with budgets often tight.
So people had to do it themselves.
Exactly. DIY became a necessity.
Right, not just a hobby.
And it didn't help that you had personalities like Barry Buckner on TV.
Barry Buckner, wasn't he like the DIY king or something?
That's him.
So,
He made home improvement look so easy and fun.
yeah, but he was a professional, right?
Exactly. And the documentary makes that point very clear.
I bet.
They show how the average person attempting these projects,
Yeah.
they often lacked the experience and the safety know-how.
Right, and those old DIY magazines,
Oh, yeah.
they didn't really prioritize safety gear, did they?
Not really. They showed some pretty scary images.
Like what?
People on ladders with no safety harnesses,
Oh, God.
handling toxic adhesives with their bare hands, using power tools that would be considered downright dangerous today.
I'm surprised there weren't more accidents.
There were plenty. The electric drill was a big one.
Really?
It was featured a lot in the documentary.
I can see why.
They talked about this one case.
What happened?
A man was electrocuted while using one on his houseboat.
Oh, no.
The combination of electricity and water, you know.
Yeah, a recipe for disaster.
It's a tragic reminder that electricity,
Right.
while transforming our homes, also introduced new dangers.
And this was a time when homes were becoming more and more electrified.
Absolutely. Suddenly, everyone had refrigerators, washing machines.
Vacuum cleaners.
All these appliances meant to make life easier.
Right.
But the documentary reveals that a lot of these appliances, they were cheaply made.
Oh, no, like with bad wiring and stuff?
Exactly. Flimsy wiring, lack of proper grounding,
What else?
components that could overheat easily.
So fire risk, too.
Absolutely. They showed all sorts of dangerous appliances.
Like what?
Irons with frayed cords, toasters that would spark,
I bet.
electric blankets that were basically fire hazards.
Wow. It's amazing anyone survived their kitchen back then.
It's a good illustration of a key issue.
What's that?
Technology was advancing faster than safety standards or knowledge.
Right, so people didn't really understand the risks.
Exactly. They didn't know how to use these new appliances safely.
It wasn't just electrocution, though, was it?
No, there were also fires.
Caused by faulty appliances.
Yeah, they were very common,
Actually,
often sparked by these cheaply made appliances overheating.
Or short-circuiting.
Exactly. But this period also saw the emergence of consumer advocacy groups.
Oh, like what?
Like the Consumers Association.
I've heard of them.
They started publishing which magazine?
Oh, right. I think I've seen that at the store.
It was a game changer.
How so?
Which started independently testing products
Okay.
and providing consumers with unbiased information
About safety.
about safety, performance, everything.
I'd say we're like the whistleblowers of the consumer world.
You could say that it was a turning point.
So people started demanding better, safer products.
Exactly. Consumers were no longer willing to just accept whatever was put in front of them.
It's good to know that some good came out of all those risks.
Absolutely. It shows that progress isn't just about new inventions,
Right.
but also about holding those inventions to a higher standard.
That's a good point. So far, this deep dive has focused on, like, the home itself.
Right. The physical space.
Yeah. But were there any hidden dangers in the food supply?
That's an interesting question, and one that the documentary addresses.
I'm almost afraid to ask.
Well, let's head back to the kitchen.
Okay, back to the scene of the crime.
But this time, we're not talking about appliances.
What is it then?
We're talking about food poisoning.
Food poisoning.
Specifically from chicken.
Oh, no. A Sunday roast, a silent killer.
You could say that after years of rationing,
Right.
there was a huge demand for meat.
Especially chicken, I bet.
Chicken was the go-to. And to meet this demand,
Yeah.
the poultry industry turned to intensive farming.
Intensive farming. You mean like...
Millions of chickens crammed together.
Oh, no, those huge sheds.
Exactly. And these farms often didn't have the best hygiene.
I can imagine.
And this led to a major salmonella problem.
Salmonella? That's nasty.
It is. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
People back then weren't as aware of salmonella.
Oh, really?
No. And they didn't really know how to handle raw chicken safely.
No wash your hands campaigns back then.
Not quite. And this coincided with a societal shift.
Like what?
Well, many middle-class families.
Yeah.
They could no longer afford domestic help.
So no cooks or maids.
Right, which meant housewives.
Okay.
Who maybe used to rely on cooks.
I see.
They were now in charge of all the cooking.
And food preparation.
Often without the proper knowledge.
Or experience.
It was a recipe for disaster.
Literally.
The documentary actually shows this experiment.
Oh, really?
They show how bacteria, even a harmless strain,
Okay.
can easily be transferred from raw chicken
Dude,
to hands, utensils, surfaces, you name it.
that's unsettling.
It is. It reminds us how important those food safety practices are.
Washing hands, sanitizing surfaces, all that.
Exactly. Things we might take for granted now.
Right. It's making me appreciate my color-coded cutting boards.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. This deep dive has me feeling a little paranoid.
I understand. So where should we go next?
Let's get out of the kitchen. I'm feeling a little
rather
like...
claustrophobic.
Yeah, exactly.
How about we head to the bathroom?
Okay, the bathroom, a place for relaxation.
You would think so, right?
Right.
But even the bathroom had its share of dangers back then.
Oh, really? Like what?
This was the era of the gas boiler.
Gas boilers, they seem pretty safe.
They were great for hot water,
Sure.
but they also brought a new threat into homes.
What's that?
Carbon monoxide.
Ah, carbon monoxide. The silent killer.
Exactly. And what made it so dangerous in the 1950s
Yeah.
was a few things. First, those early boilers,
Yeah.
they weren't as well ventilated as modern ones.
Okay, and wasn't that also before carbon monoxide detectors?
Exactly.
Okay.
People had no way of knowing if this odorless, colorless gas
Right.
was building up in their homes.
So scary. And the documentary mentioned
Yeah.
that there were a lot of cases back then
There were
where entire families
tragically
were found dead in their bathrooms.
because of carbon monoxide from faulty boilers.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
It really is. It highlights the importance of ventilation.
And carbon monoxide detectors.
Absolutely. But back then,
Right.
people didn't have those safety measures in place.
So why was the bathroom so dangerous?
Well, think about it. You'd close the door for privacy,
Right.
and maybe even the window to keep the heat in.
Especially in the winter,
Exactly. And that created the perfect conditions.
for the carbon monoxide to build up.
It's like a tragic combination of factors.
Didn't they do an experiment with carbon monoxide in the documentary?
They did. It was pretty chilling.
What did they do?
They recreated a typical 1950s bathroom
Okay.
with a gas heater in a sealed chamber. It took just minutes for the carbon monoxide levels to become lethal.
Minutes. That's terrifying.
It's a stark reminder of how dangerous this gas can be.
And how quickly it can turn deadly.
It's a good thing we have those detectors now.
Right? It makes you wonder what other everyday things back then,
Yes, what other seemingly harmless aspects of life
in a 1950s home.
might have posed hidden risks?
So many hidden dangers
Yeah.
lurking in those post-war homes.
It's really eye-opening, isn't it?
It is, and it makes you think about how far we've come.
Definitely. We were talking earlier about those consumer advocacy groups.
Right, like the Consumers Association and Which magazine.
Exactly. They played a huge role in making things safer.
It's interesting how that all came about.
It's like a direct response to those hidden dangers we've been discussing.
So on the one hand, you have all these new technologies.
Right, all this innovation.
But on the other hand,
You have these risks that people weren't aware of.
and that's where those consumer groups came in,
They started demanding better from manufacturers.
demanding safer products, more transparency.
Exactly. They gave consumers a voice.
So it was a turning point then.
You could say that it marked a shift in consumer consciousness.
People were starting to ask questions.
Right. Doing the research, not just blindly trusting companies.
It's a good reminder that we have power as consumers.
We do,
Yeah.
and that we should use it to demand better and safer products.
Absolutely. Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
What's the key takeaway here?
I think the 1950s offer a powerful lesson.
Okay.
Progress can be a double-edged sword.
In what way?
Well, new technologies, while exciting,
Sure.
they can also come with risks we might not anticipate.
Hidden dangers, as we've seen.
Exactly. And the key is to approach innovation with caution.
So not just embrace every new gadget that comes along.
Right. Do your research ask questions, demand transparency?
Don't just accept things at face value.
Exactly. We've come a long way in terms of safety standards.
Oh, definitely. But it's an ongoing process, right?
It is. As technology keeps evolving, new challenges and new risks will emerge.
Which leads to a bit of a scary thought.
Oh.
What might seem completely harmless in our homes today
Okay.
could be the hidden danger of tomorrow.
Something to think about, isn't it?
It really is. Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to sign off.
I agree.
Until next time, stay curious, everyone.
Stay safe.